So Roger William Dean III, and he always had to have that William Dean III. He was very proud of being a third. He was our only child, and brilliant, smart, funny, sarcastic.
The life of the party.
The life of the party. Best attitude, always happy. He was a firefighter, paramedic, yeah.
Truly one of the only people I have ever met in my life that never really had a bad day. No matter how bad the breaks were or whatever happened, Roger always positive attitude, kept a smile on his face and made light of it, or we always had the best day, so yeah.
Roger started out as an EMT. I met him whenever he was going through his EMT program. We got married, and then he became a paramedic and worked as a paramedic for a while in a couple of different departments, and then became a firefighter, went to fire school and became a firefighter, and then just continued his education. Education was huge with him. He loved training other people. He loved learning. That's something we both have in common. I was a school teacher, so we both had that in common, that we loved learning. But yeah, he wanted to pass down knowledge and make sure everyone that he worked with was a best firefighter and someone that he could trust to take care of himself and me. So he wanted everyone to learn. He was at Seguin Fire Department. And it was an amazing department. He got on about a year. He was on for about a year and a half there. And whenever he got there, he came home and he's like, "This is home. This is my department." And he really loved the tradition, and he really enjoyed it. And he became a field training officer before his year even. They said that they don't usually promote people until after they've been there for a year, but they promoted him because he was that good. And since he loved training and everything, so they promoted him to field training officer. His department has been the world. Very, very supportive. They helped put on the whole service, memorial service. They got my opinion and my input, but they tried to take that off my hands as much as possible to relieve that stress. They'd call, check in all the time. They're like a continued family.
And when he was ill, gosh, I'm a former paramedic firefighter, so is Roger. I mean, our son, Roger William, he grew up in the fire service, grew up in a fire station.
Literally.
Literally. But I've never seen support like he received from the city manager, the mayor, the fire chief.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone at the fire department was calling, doing fundraisers. When he needed to be transferred from San Antonio, where he started on ECMO, to the transplant center in Houston, the fire department sent his ambulance with his best friend, his partner, to transfer him from the hospital, from the ICU, to the air ambulance. To take an ambulance out of service and a crew just to be there with him. And all the firemen, they took the ambulance around to all of the stations for several days before
they took him.
All of the firemen wrote messages on the walls and on the ceiling of the
So whenever
of the
they got in there,
ambulance.
he would see all the messages.
So pictures of the guys and Roger, and just,
And one thing about the city manager, whenever, I've never seen this before, but when Roger passed, the city manager was at the hospital in Houston, which is about a 2-hour drive from his department, from his city, and the city manager was there, which I've never, heard of a city manager coming for a firefighter, and I think that was just such an honor.
We'll never be able to thank the city of Seguin for all they have done and continue to do for us as a family. We are part of the Seguin Fire Department now, literally. You always hear about the fire department being a big family, and there's no truer statement that can be made, honestly. From the time Roger became ill, to the time of his death. They took an ambulance out of service, brought it to Houston. In fact, his ambulance that he worked on took it out of service and conveyed his body back home to Seguin on that ambulance. And then his crew, his department and neighboring departments, they stood vigil over his body for the next 5 days until his service, around the clock. We were never want for anything at all. And to this day, Stephanie, the guys are over at the house mowing the lawn, helping us, whatever we need. Those guys are a phone call away. And that's the true measure of service that your fellows provide you in this line of work. I'll also say that part of what the city of Seguin fostered and the family, we believe very much in paying it forward. And Roger was very big into education. It's kind of funny, a funny story. Ashley and I used to teach EMT courses, and Roger, when he was about the time he could walk and talk, he was up there and he would help us. He was the pediatric demonstration, and he helped. That kid knew CPR from a very early age. Yeah, and he would walk around to the guys, and
he'd be like, "No, that's not how you do it." And he'd like show them how to do compressions.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Like 3.
So he was kind of doomed to a life like this, but his legacy that will last is Stephanie felt very important, as did we, that we continue to pay it forward. And there's a scholarship now, the Roger W. Dean III Scholarship, that every year we send at least one firefighter to Fire Academy and get their EMT certification. And we're on our second one, I guess.
Yeah,
the second
one.
high school graduate that we send, and so we'll be having another conference here in April coming up. So,
and the money for what he was talking about, the conference, the money from the scholarship comes from a legacy conference that we do at Seguin, where it's firefighters from all over Texas can come, and we have trainers and things like that, and we did a forcible entry training, just all sorts of different training for guys, and so that's where we raise the money for the scholarship.
Roger, one day I got a text message from Roger, and so did Stephanie, and we were like, "What the heck?" And there was this picture that said "Non-CV Set Omnibus." It was painted on a wall, and I was looking at it and I said, "What is that?" And he goes, "Look it up."
And he painted it on the fire station.
Well, yeah. So I said, "Well, where is it at?" He said, "Well, I painted." He was stationed at Central Station, and so he painted that motto on the apparatus bay door as you walk out to the apparatus floor to go on a call. And he said, "Yeah, I wanted our crews every day when they pass through these doors to get on the apparatus to make the response to remember why we're here." And non-CV Set Omnibus basically translates to not for self, for all. And I said, "Well, who told? How did that come about?" And he said, "I just thought it up and painted it on there." I said, "Well, what did the chief say about it?" And he goes, "I didn't ask the chief. I just did it," because he said I felt like it needed to be done. So that's the type of kid he was, and it's kind of funny when they remodeled the station just recently. The fire chief and the city manager made it explicitly clear to the contractor that if something happened to the motto,
it was not gonna be good.
They better not be in town when it was discovered. So the motto will live on forever in the hall there in his station, and that'll be his lasting legacy.
And he was big on not self but for others. Even before he found out that saying, that was who he was, and he was always about doing the right thing, whether it was it in the law or permitted or not. But he always did what he felt was right for mankind, and not for himself, but for others, for his brothers and for his community.
When I think of Roger, I think of the most precious son. Everyone says it, but my best friend and a true hero.
Yeah, when I think of Roger, I just think of my baby boy. And he was always happy, always doing something for everybody else, doing something to make me happy, make me feel good. Never had a crossword. He was an angel. I know moms think that, but he really was. He was never any problems. He was He was a good boy.
When I think of Roger, I think of love, laughter, service.
There's a reason we only had one.
Here's to you, with that smile on your face. Here's to you, and what I won't erase, to this moment we share, to the love